Have you ever wondered why so many men today struggle with low energy, stubborn belly fat, poor recovery, reduced motivation, and declining muscle mass even when they believe they're doing everything right? Most people assume this is simply a normal part of aging. But what if that isn't the full story? What if your testosterone levels are being influenced every day by factors that you can actually control? Here's what's really going on inside your body. Testosterone is often thought of as the hormone responsible for muscle growth, strength, and libido. And while it certainly plays those roles, its influence goes much deeper. Testosterone affects your metabolism, insulin sensitivity, brain function, motivation, bone health, cardiovascular health, and even how efficiently your body burns fat. In fact, research continues to show that declining testosterone is closely linked with obesity, insulin resistance, poor sleep, chronic stress, and metabolic dysfunction, not simply aging itself. Modern studies suggest that lifestyle factors such as excess body fat, sleep deprivation, physical inactivity, and poor nutrition are major contributors to falling testosterone levels across populations. Continue with Section 2, Key Points Overview. Let's start with one of the most misunderstood drivers of low testosterone, excess body fat, especially belly fat. Most people think body fat is simply stored energy. But physiologically, fat tissue behaves more like an active endocrine organ. It constantly communicates with the rest of the body through hormones, inflammatory signals, and enzymes. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Imagine testosterone production as water flowing into a bucket. Now imagine there's a hole in the bottom of that bucket. One of the biggest holes is an enzyme called aromatase. Aromatase is found in fat tissue, and its job is to convert testosterone into estrogen. This process is normal and necessary in small amounts. The problem occurs when excess body fat, particularly visceral fat around the organs, dramatically increases aromatase activity. The more visceral fat you carry, the more testosterone may be converted into estrogen. This creates a vicious cycle. Lower testosterone can make it easier to gain fat and harder to maintain muscle. More fat then increases aromatase activity, which further lowers testosterone. Round and round the cycle goes. What the research shows is that men with higher levels of visceral fat often have significantly lower testosterone levels and greater metabolic dysfunction compared with leaner individuals. Excess visceral fat is also associated with chronic inflammation, which can further suppress hormone production from the testes and disrupt signaling from the brain. Recent studies continue to reinforce this relationship between central obesity and testosterone decline. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your hormonal system as a factory. The brain is the CEO. The testes are the production department, and visceral fat acts like a disruptive middle manager, constantly interfering with communication between the two. Eventually, production slows down. So, what can you do? Focus on reducing visceral fat rather than simply losing weight. Start with 3 powerful interventions. First, prioritize protein at every meal. Aim for roughly 30-40 grams per meal to improve satiety and preserve muscle mass during fat loss. Second, reduce refined carbohydrates and sugary beverages that drive insulin spikes and fat storage. Third, incorporate time-restricted eating, such as a 12 to 14-hour overnight fasting window, if appropriate for your health status. Even a modest reduction in waist circumference can improve hormonal signaling. And here's an important point. Don't chase testosterone supplements before addressing excess visceral fat. For many men, removing the hormonal roadblocks creates more lasting benefits than trying to force hormone levels higher. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. Every day, I share science-based strategies designed to help you improve metabolic health, energy, fat burning, and healthy aging naturally. Because when you understand the root cause, you can finally start working with your biology instead of fighting against it. Now let's talk about one of the most overlooked causes of low testosterone, insulin resistance. Many people think insulin is simply a blood sugar hormone, but insulin is also one of the body's most powerful metabolic messengers. When insulin functions properly, it helps move glucose into cells for energy. When insulin remains elevated for months or years, the consequences extend far beyond blood sugar. This includes testosterone production. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Imagine your hormonal system as an orchestra. Each hormone has a specific role and timing. When insulin becomes chronically elevated, it's like a drummer playing louder and louder until the rest of the orchestra can no longer stay in rhythm. Eventually, hormonal balance begins to break down. Research consistently shows that insulin resistance and low testosterone often travel together. In men with metabolic syndrome, prediabetes, and type 2 diabetes, testosterone levels are frequently lower than expected. The relationship works in both directions. Low testosterone can worsen insulin resistance, and insulin resistance can suppress testosterone production. Why does this happen? Several mechanisms are involved. First, elevated insulin promotes fat storage, especially around the abdomen. As we discussed earlier, more visceral fat increases aromatase activity and inflammatory signaling. Second, insulin resistance is associated with chronic low-grade inflammation. These inflammatory signals can interfere with communication between the brain and testes, reducing testosterone production. Third, metabolic dysfunction often impairs liver health. The liver plays a critical role in hormone regulation, detoxification, and maintaining proper hormone balance throughout the body. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of insulin as traffic control for your metabolism. When traffic flows smoothly, everything reaches its destination on time. But when insulin resistance develops, it's like a massive traffic jam. Nutrients, hormones, and energy signals become less efficient, creating stress throughout the entire system. The good news: insulin resistance is often highly reversible. Start with these practical steps. Replace ultra-processed foods with whole foods. Prioritize protein, vegetables, healthy fats, and high-fiber carbohydrates. Walk for 10 to 15 minutes after meals. This simple habit helps muscles absorb glucose and improves insulin sensitivity. Perform resistance training at least 3 times per week. Muscle tissue acts like a glucose reservoir, helping lower insulin demands. And avoid constant snacking throughout the day. Giving insulin time to fall between meals allows your body to regain metabolic flexibility. What the research shows is that improvements in insulin sensitivity are often accompanied by improvements in testosterone levels, body composition, and overall metabolic health. In other words, if you want higher testosterone naturally, don't just focus on the hormone itself. Focus on creating a healthier metabolic environment, because healthy testosterone is often the result of healthy metabolism, not the other way around. Now let's discuss what may be the most powerful natural testosterone booster available, and it's completely free. Sleep. In fact, many men spend hundreds of dollars on supplements while ignoring the very process where a large portion of testosterone production actually occurs. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Testosterone is not produced at a constant rate throughout the day. Much of your daily testosterone production is closely tied to your sleep cycle, particularly deep sleep and REM sleep. During these restorative stages, the brain sends hormonal signals that stimulate testosterone production and recovery. When sleep becomes fragmented, shortened, or poor in quality, those signals become weaker. Think of sleep as your body's overnight repair shift. Imagine a factory that only performs maintenance while the workers are gone. Every night, critical systems are repaired, cleaned, and recalibrated. But if the maintenance crew only gets half their shift, repairs remain unfinished. Eventually, performance begins to suffer. That's exactly what happens when sleep is chronically compromised. Research has shown that even relatively short periods of sleep restriction can significantly reduce testosterone levels. Studies also continue to demonstrate strong links between poor sleep quality, hormonal imbalance, increased body fat accumulation, insulin resistance, and reduced physical performance. And here's where things become even more important. Low sleep doesn't just reduce testosterone directly, it also increases cortisol. Remember, cortisol and testosterone often have an inverse relationship. When stress hormones stay elevated, testosterone production tends to decline. This means poor sleep can attack testosterone from multiple directions at the same time. So what should you do? Start by protecting the first 3 hours after falling asleep. This is when much of your deep sleep occurs. Aim for 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep opportunity each night. Keep your bedroom cool, dark, and quiet. Avoid bright screens for at least 1 hour before bed. Try to get morning sunlight exposure within the first hour of waking. This helps regulate your circadian rhythm and improves nighttime melatonin production. Limit caffeine after early afternoon, especially if you notice difficulty falling asleep. And if you snore heavily, wake up exhausted, or experience frequent nighttime awakenings, consider discussing sleep apnea with your healthcare provider. Sleep apnea is one of the most underdiagnosed causes of low testosterone and metabolic dysfunction. If this information is helping you better understand your body, consider subscribing. Every day, I share evidence-based strategies to improve energy, metabolism, fat loss, and healthy aging naturally. Because sometimes the most powerful intervention isn't a supplement at all. Sometimes it's simply giving your body the recovery time it needs to do what it was designed to do. Let's move to another major factor that directly influences testosterone production: resistance training. Many people exercise regularly, yet never see meaningful improvements in strength, body composition, or hormonal health. The reason is simple. Not all exercise sends the same message to your body. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your body is constantly adapting to the demands placed upon it. If you spend most of your day sitting, your body receives a signal that muscle tissue is not essential. Over time, muscle maintenance becomes less of a priority. But when you challenge your muscles through resistance training, you send a very different message. You tell your body that strength, resilience, and physical capability are required. In response, your physiology begins adapting. Think of muscle tissue as a metabolic engine. The larger and healthier that engine becomes, the more efficiently your body burns fuel, regulates blood sugar, and supports healthy hormone production. What the research shows is that resistance training improves testosterone supporting physiology through multiple pathways. It increases muscle mass, improves insulin sensitivity, reduces visceral fat, enhances metabolic flexibility, and supports overall endocrine function. Notice something important. The biggest hormonal benefit doesn't necessarily come from a temporary spike in testosterone after a workout. The real benefit comes from the long-term metabolic improvements that resistance training creates. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine testosterone production as growing a garden. Many people focus on watering the plants, but resistance training improves the soil itself. When the soil becomes healthier, everything growing in that environment performs better. So what does an effective testosterone-supporting exercise plan look like? Keep it simple. Focus on large compound movements that recruit multiple muscle groups. Exercises such as squats, deadlifts, lunges, rows, pull-ups, push-ups, and presses provide the greatest metabolic return. Aim for 3 to 4 resistance training sessions per week. Prioritize progressive overload, meaning gradually increasing resistance, repetitions, or training volume over time. You do not need marathon workouts. In many cases, 45 to 60 minutes of focused training is more effective than spending 2 hours in the gym. Also avoid a common mistake. More exercise is not always better. Excessive endurance training without adequate recovery can elevate cortisol and potentially work against hormonal optimization. The goal is challenge followed by recovery, stress followed by adaptation, training followed by repair. When those cycles are balanced correctly, your body becomes stronger, leaner, and metabolically healthier. And as insulin sensitivity improves, visceral fat decreases, and muscle mass increases, testosterone production often improves naturally as a result. The key takeaway is this: don't exercise merely to burn calories. Exercise to build a stronger metabolic system, because a healthier metabolism creates the environment where healthy testosterone can thrive. Now let's talk about something that is often overlooked in conversations about testosterone: nutritional deficiencies. Many people focus on boosting hormones without first asking a more important question. Does the body have the raw materials it needs to make those hormones in the first place? Because testosterone production is not magic, it's biochemistry, and biochemistry requires building blocks. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Imagine you're trying to build a house. You may have skilled workers, a great blueprint, and plenty of motivation. But if you run out of bricks, lumber, or concrete, construction slows down. Your hormone-producing systems work the same way. Even if your brain is sending the right signals, nutrient deficiencies can limit your body's ability to produce testosterone efficiently. Let's focus on the most important nutrients. First, vitamin D. Vitamin D functions more like a hormone than a vitamin. Testosterone-producing cells contain vitamin D receptors, and research continues to show associations between low vitamin D status and lower testosterone levels. The best source is sensible sun exposure. However, many people spend most of their time indoors, making deficiency extremely common. Second, zinc. Zinc plays a critical role in testosterone synthesis, immune function, and reproductive health. Even mild zinc deficiency can negatively affect hormone production. Excellent food sources include oysters, beef, lamb, pumpkin seeds, and shellfish. Third, magnesium. Magnesium supports hundreds of enzymatic reactions throughout the body, including energy production, muscle recovery, sleep quality, and hormonal regulation. Good sources include leafy greens, avocados, nuts, seeds, and dark chocolate. Fourth, protein. Many people underestimate its importance. Protein supplies amino acids that support muscle maintenance, recovery, and metabolic health. Since muscle tissue helps improve insulin sensitivity, adequate protein indirectly supports healthy testosterone production as well. Aim for approximately 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of ideal body weight if your goal is optimizing body composition and preserving lean muscle. And finally, omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3s help regulate inflammation, support cellular health, and improve metabolic function throughout the body. Fatty fish, such as salmon, sardines, mackerel, and herring, are among the best sources. So what does a practical daily protocol look like? Start by prioritizing whole foods. Build meals around quality protein, vegetables, healthy fats, and minimally processed carbohydrates. Get regular sunlight exposure when possible. Consider testing vitamin D levels through your healthcare provider rather than guessing. And if dietary intake is insufficient, targeted supplementation with vitamin D3, magnesium glycinate, zinc, or omega-3 fish oil may be worth discussing with a qualified healthcare professional. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. Every day, I share practical, science-based strategies that help you improve metabolism, energy, longevity, and overall health naturally. Because sometimes the difference between hormonal dysfunction and hormonal optimization is simply giving your body the nutrients it has been missing all along. Now let's discuss the final piece of the puzzle, and for many people, it's the hidden factor preventing everything else from working: chronic stress. You can eat well. You can exercise consistently, you can take every supplement on the shelf. But if your body remains trapped in a chronic stress response, testosterone production may still struggle. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your body has two priorities: survival and reproduction. When the brain perceives danger, whether it's a true physical threat or ongoing psychological stress, it shifts resources toward survival. The primary hormone involved in that response is cortisol. Cortisol itself is not the enemy. In fact, healthy cortisol rhythms are essential for energy, focus, blood sugar regulation, and normal daily function. The problem occurs when cortisol remains elevated for weeks, months, or years. Think of cortisol as your body's emergency budget. During a crisis, resources are diverted toward immediate needs. Long-term projects get postponed. In the same way, when stress remains chronically elevated, the body often reduces investment in processes that are not immediately necessary for survival, including optimal testosterone production. Research continues to demonstrate that chronic stress and prolonged cortisol elevation can interfere with the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, the communication network connecting the brain to the testes. When that communication weakens, testosterone production often declines, and the effects don't stop there. High cortisol can worsen insulin resistance. It can increase abdominal fat storage. It can disrupt sleep quality. And as you've learned throughout this video, each of those factors can independently lower testosterone as well. This is why stress becomes such a powerful multiplier. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine trying to fill a bathtub while the drain remains open. You can keep pouring water in, but until you address the drain, progress remains limited. Chronic stress is often that drain, so what can you do? Start with the fundamentals: protect sleep, maintain regular exercise, spend time outdoors daily, build periods of recovery into your schedule. Even 10 to 20 minutes of walking, breathing exercises, meditation, prayer, journaling, or quiet reflection can help reduce physiological stress signaling. One of the most effective strategies is something surprisingly simple: create predictable recovery rituals. Your nervous system thrives on consistency. A regular bedtime, consistent meal timing, morning sunlight exposure, and daily movement all help reinforce healthy stress regulation. The goal isn't to eliminate stress. That's impossible. The goal is to improve your ability to recover from stress. Because when recovery improves, cortisol becomes better regulated. When cortisol becomes better regulated, sleep improves, insulin sensitivity improves, body composition improves. And the environment for healthy testosterone production improves as well. That's how true hormonal optimization works. Not through shortcuts, but by creating a body that feels safe enough, healthy enough, and metabolically resilient enough to thrive. As we've seen throughout this video, increasing testosterone naturally is not about chasing a single hormone. It's about improving the entire environment in which that hormone is produced. And that's an important distinction, because testosterone doesn't operate in isolation. It responds to your metabolism, it responds to your sleep, it responds to your body composition, it responds to your nutrition, and it responds to your stress levels. Let's quickly recap the key principles. First, reduce excess visceral fat. Belly fat isn't just stored energy, it actively influences hormones through inflammation and increased aromatase activity, which can convert testosterone into estrogen. Second, improve insulin sensitivity. Chronically elevated insulin disrupts metabolic health and creates conditions that often suppress testosterone production. Third, prioritize sleep. Much of your body's hormonal recovery and testosterone production occurs while you're sleeping, making quality sleep one of the most powerful interventions available. Fourth, build muscle through resistance training. Muscle isn't just for strength and appearance. It's a metabolic organ that improves insulin sensitivity, supports healthy body composition, and helps create a testosterone-friendly environment. Fifth, eliminate nutrient deficiencies. Vitamin D, zinc, magnesium, omega-3 fats, and adequate protein provide the raw materials your body needs for optimal hormone production. And finally, manage chronic stress. Elevated cortisol can undermine nearly every aspect of hormonal health, from sleep quality to fat storage to testosterone production itself. Here's what's really encouraging. You don't have to implement everything at once. In fact, trying to change everything overnight is usually a recipe for failure. Instead, choose one area, one habit, one improvement. Maybe it's going to bed 30 minutes earlier. Maybe it's strength training 3 times this week. Maybe it's replacing sugary drinks with water. Maybe it's taking a 15-minute walk after dinner each night. Small actions performed consistently create powerful physiological changes over time. Remember, your body is constantly adapting to the signals you give it. Every meal sends a signal. Every workout sends a signal. Every night of sleep sends a signal. Every stressful situation sends a signal. The question is, what signals are you sending? Your challenge is simple. Choose one strategy from today's video and commit to it for the next 7 days. Track your energy, focus, sleep quality, body composition, and overall well-being. Pay attention to how your body responds. Because the goal isn't simply higher testosterone, the goal is better health, better energy, better performance, and healthier aging. If this video added value, make sure to like the video and subscribe to join a community of people who are optimizing their health naturally through science-backed strategies. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.